Welcome to Frankly with Dean LaFerla. My special guest today is Professor Joshua Grill from the Department of Neurobiology and Behavior and Psychiatry, and also the director of UCI MIND. So welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Frank.
It's great to have you here at a very timely point because there's a lot of excitement about this new Alzheimer's drug. I know I've gotten a lot of emails from people in the community. I'm sure you have as well. Maybe give us a little bit of an overview of why there's so much excitement in your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Frank. I agree. It's really been very exciting, and I think it's exciting on many levels. First of all, we're a field that's had a lot of disagreement and debate, important debates that help move the field forward. But right now, I think there's uniformity in the enthusiasm about what we've learned. And what we learned was at the end of September, one company, Eisai, announced top-line results. So we haven't actually seen the data yet, but we're excited to see the data. The top-line results were that a drug, lecanemab, seemed to be successful in slowing progression of Alzheimer's disease in people who had symptoms, mild cognitive impairment or mild dementia. And this is really the source of great excitement. This could be the first time ever we've had a fully approved drug that can actually slow the course of Alzheimer's disease.
Great. So let me ask you two questions as a follow-up. One is, what class of drug is lecanemab? Maybe explain that to the audience.
Yeah, so lecanemab is a drug that we call a monoclonal antibody, and specifically it's a monoclonal antibody against the beta amyloid protein that accumulates in the brain of a person with Alzheimer's disease. So lecanemab is one of a few drugs now that has actually been shown to be able to lower the amounts of beta amyloid protein, and this is the sticky protein that accumulates in the plaques in the brain that we know people with Alzheimer's disease get. And it looks like lecanemab, along with a couple of other drugs, can actually bring amyloid levels back down to normal compared to what we would see in a person with full-blown Alzheimer's dementia, and that's really very exciting.
So in that case, it means it's disease-modifying and not just symptomatic. Can you unravel that a little bit more, unpackage that for the community?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've had drugs for Alzheimer's disease for 15 or 20 years now, and the drugs that we've had are oral therapies that help someone perform a little better on memory and thinking tests compared to if they weren't taking the drug. Lecanemab is a disease-modifying therapy. It means that people may not get a bump in performance when they start taking the drug, but that over time, the worsening that we see in memory and thinking skills will be slowed in the rate of its worsening. And that seemed to be about a 25% slowing of disease progression over the 18 months for which the trial was conducted.
Okay, I was going to ask you that question about what the percent improvement was, but as you alluded to, it could be that the longer you take this drug, that percentage will increase even further, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there's going to be a lot of important questions that still need answering after these results, like if you stay on drug for longer, does the benefit grow over time, which is what we would hypothesize would be the case for a disease-modifying therapy. Also, too, the earlier we start these drugs, it does seem the more able they are to slow the course of disease. And we're actually testing lecanemab now in an international clinical trial that's happening here at UCI to see if lecanemab can actually prevent someone from ever getting memory problems by starting the drug so early that the memory problems haven't even begun yet. We call those preclinical Alzheimer's disease trials. We might think of them as prevention trials because we're enrolling people who don't have any memory problems, but in whom a brain scan suggests they may be at increased risk to get those problems someday.
And how long will it take to get the results of a prevention clinical trial like that, especially with people who are preclinical?
Yeah, these preclinical trials are indeed very difficult to do, and they do take a long time. So the primary outcome of preclinical AD trials is generally 3.5 to 4.5 years long, and combined with the time it takes to enroll people in these trials, which is also multiple years, you're looking at time of 5 to 8 years to answer a question. So the faster we can get people into this study, which is called the AHEAD study, the sooner we'll be able to answer this important question.
Okay. We've been down this road not too long ago with another, antibody. Why are you more excited about this one than the previous one?
Well, I don't think we have been down this road before. We have multiple drugs that do appear to be able to lower beta amyloid levels in the brain, and that's very exciting. But really, for the first time, we have results from clinical trials that are pretty consistent, don't disagree with each other. There's less to debate, less to argue about. Again, there are going to be a lot of important conversations that we have in the coming years about the meaningfulness of these effects, potentially the cost and the cost effectiveness of these treatments. But I think that we really are on the burgeoning steps of a new phase in Alzheimer's disease clinical practice and clinical research.
So that's wonderful. So, a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but as they say, we should be cautiously optimistic because, as you pointed out earlier, we haven't seen the data yet.
That's right.
And when I alluded to that we've been down this road, what I meant was obviously the FDA just gave approval not too long ago for a comparable class of drugs that then the companies stopped marketing, right? So hopefully we're not going to follow that same path.
Yeah, but again, I think that the FDA gave an accelerated approval, meaning that a drug was approved for its ability to lower amyloid in the brain, but the clinical data didn't match that biological effect.
Which it does now.
So now we've got clinical data that are quite compelling, very supportive of the amyloid hypothesis, but I don't think anyone thinks amyloid is enough. And so what this does is it launches us into the next phase where we can try to improve upon these results, look at other mechanisms of treating the disease, potentially look at combinations of mechanism for treating the disease, and hopeful synergy in our therapeutic benefit.
Okay. Well, there you heard it from one of UCI's leading Alzheimer's researchers and experts about the optimism that exists over lecanemab. So thank you for joining us.